How's it going everyone, J-Star here and welcome back to another Pokémon Horizons episode review. In case you missed last week's episode, here's the thumbnail on the screen. It basically covered the final introduction type episode for Liko and Sprigatito. I thought it was a decent episode, so make sure you check it out. But today's episode is the 4th episode and we're getting into some new interesting things. So without further ado, let's jump into today's episode review. So this week's episode opens up with Liko getting out of bed and putting on her brand new outfit. It's the blue outfit we've seen from the trailers and from the posters and things like that. Because like she said, she can't be wearing a school uniform for the entire show. We then also find out that the airship has taken a little bit of damage and it's got a few cuts in it and it's losing gas, which means it is soon going to fall out of the sky. So the Rising Voltaclers decide to land on an island just off the shore of Kanto. We then see Charizard and Fuecoco playing together, but Professor Frida said he needs to use Charizard for a special job to go see an old friend, which makes Fuecoco very, very sad. Fuecoco then decides to try and chase Charizard, however it trips and falls off the edge of the airship. As Liko's getting lunch ready for all the other Pokemon, she also notices that Fuecoco is missing and decides to go on a hunt to look for it. We then also get to find out that the old man that's been living on the airship, the final member of the Rising Voltaclers, is called Ludlow, and he does a couple bits of dialogue. He talks for the first time, but nothing really major to point out. Just point out that he's in this episode and he's not just in the background doing a wave or doing some handshake in the midair. On the island, we find out that Fuecoco causes a lot of trouble. He finds sort of a Pokemon nest with lots and lots of berries and he decides to eat all of these berries, which will obviously make the Pokemon that live there very, very angry. He then also breaks into a small little building, sort of a secret base, and again empties the entire place, I'm guessing looking for food, and destroys the inside completely. We then head to another interesting character, Roy, who we saw at the end of last week's episode. We find out that he's been doing online classes for school and finds out that all of his other friends have all got Pokemon except for him. He then heads to his secret base and finds out it has been completely destroyed by none other than Fuecoco. Roy and Fuecoco eventually bump into each other and Roy talks about that he wants to be a Pokemon trainer and he has a special Pokeball. It looks like a really old Pokeball and says that it is his secret treasure. As Liko and Sprigatito are looking for Fuecoco, they bump into the Pokemon whose den Fuecoco destroyed, and these bug Pokemon are not happy in the slightest and decide to chase Liko and Sprigatito as they think that them two ate all of the food. But luckily for them, Roy and Fuecoco hear Liko's screams and end up saving them from the bug Pokemon. But as they are being saved, Roy's Pokeball ends up doing a special shine and it also links in with Liko's pendant, which also shines as well, which in my opinion suggests that these two are connected to something bigger. And I'm interested to see what that's going to play out in the future. Anyway, Roy and Liko decide to have a little bit of a talk, but the bug Pokemon end up finding them and capture them using String Shot. However, before anything gets really messy and intense, Professor Frida jumps in to tangle the bug Pokemon up in their own String Shot and saves Liko and Roy. The group then decide to work together to one last little mission, and it's getting lots and lots of berries for these bug Pokemon they made very upset, which they end up doing so. Liko, Sprigatito, Fuecoco, and Professor Frida head back to the airship, leaving Roy to say goodbye and leave him on his own. And then the final thing that happens in the episode, we find out the explorers, you know, the bad team of this anime, are working for someone really important who wants the pendant, and that is where the episode ended. So there we go, that is the 4th episode done. I thought it was an okay episode. I kind of thought it'd be a bit more about Roy instead of Fuecoco, but I'm sure we'll get a lot more of Roy in the future and in the next episode. But there's a couple points I want to talk about. First one obviously being Fuecoco, the main focus of this episode, and I actually enjoyed Fuecoco quite a bit. I liked its little silliness and it was shy and its singing this it was doing. I thought this episode was a good little introduction to its character. Another point I want to talk about is Roy. Now I wanted this episode to be a bit more about Roy as I've just said, but again I enjoyed Roy's character and again a proper introduction to Roy, how he has this special Pokeball and it's got some magical powers that links in with Liko's pendant, and we do want to see what that's going to do in the future. But learning that Roy's never been off this island and there's no Pokemon trainers on his island, so he has no idea how to catch a Pokemon or anything like that, is quite sad because he clearly is passionate about this and he just wants to adventure and discover all these things and unlock mysteries, so I do hope he ends up joining the Rising Voltaclers, who are Professor Frida and his group, and we get to see a lot more of him moving forward. I feel like we do since he's on the poster and in the trailers. I'm sure he will become one of the main characters. So I think the rating I'm going to give this episode is a 7 out of 10. Again, I thought it'd be a lot more about Roy, however, it was still a decent episode with Fuecoco in it anyway. So there we go, that's where I'm going to end this episode off. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. Comment down below in the comment section, let me know what your thoughts are on Roy and Fuecoco. And finally subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next week. with the next one.